Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I have decided to record my lectures and to provide all of these lectures to my dear students. It's very good news for you that my lectures will be available for you 24/7 on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Roomi's lectures. My lectures will be very useful for MBBS students, BDS students, and other allied health science students, like for Bachelors of Pharmacy, Physiotherapy, Lab Sciences, Optometry, and many other allied health science program students. And the students of postgraduate programs can also benefit from my lectures in order to prepare for the exams. I'm very hopeful that you will enjoy learning from my lectures, and I will try my best to make these lectures interesting, simple, and easy to understand for you. I request you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will keep on recording lectures, 1 to 2 lectures daily, and these will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. I have decided to start with the neurophysiology. In neurophysiology, we will cover three important units: sensitive physiology, motor and integrated physiology, and special senses physiology. So in neurophysiology, we are beginning with the sensitive physiology. First of all, let me tell you that the nervous system is one of the 11 systems of our body, and just like other systems, nervous system is very important for homeostasis. There are two systems in our body which are most fundamental and most important for homeostasis. One is endocrine system and the other one is nervous system. Let's compare the homeostatic features of these two systems. The nervous system is faster in its action, and the endocrine system is slower one. Let's suppose you are working in a kitchen and suddenly your hand touches to some hot stove. What will you do? You will quickly withdraw your hand in a reflex action, but the hormones, they work slowly. They work slowly. For example, the growth hormone, it works for months and years, and increases our length, size of various organs of the body. So hormones, they are slow to work, maybe within minutes, hours, or even days, months, or years. But the nervous system, it is very quick to perform its actions. So we can say that nervous system is quick to perform its action, and that is in the form of reflexes. And hormones, they are slow to work. What is the mode of action in case of nervous system? The mode of transmission of signal in case of nervous system is electrical to chemical, which means that the electrical signals, which are in the form of action potentials, they travel along nerve fibers, and then there is a release of neurotransmitters from the nerve endings, which act on the effector organs. But in case of endocrine system, the messenger chemicals, they are hormones. For example, insulin hormone, growth hormone, glucagon hormone. So various hormones, they are the messenger chemicals in case of endocrine system. The duration of action in case of nervous system, the action is short-lived, which means this action may be for a few seconds. So this is short-lived action. But in case of endocrine system, the action is longer. For example, when we take a meal, the action of insulin, it may persist for some hours. It's relatively longer. And in case of growth hormone, the action is for months and years. In case of nervous system, the target organs are very discrete and very specific. For example, in case of neuromuscular junction, your alpha motor neurons, they are supplying the skeletal muscle fibers which contract in response. But if you talk about epinephrine hormone, that has widespread action on eyes, our lungs, heart, intestines, urinary bladder, blood vessels. So different organs of the body, which are multiple in number and in different locations. Now, if you talk about the release of the messenger substance that is released close to the target organ in case of nervous system, so close to the target organ, for example, in neuromuscular junction, acetylcholine is the messenger. It is released in direct contact with the muscle, so very close to that in the synaptic space. But in case of endocrine system, the hormones, they are blood-borne and they are carried along the blood to act on various organs. So the release of hormones or messengers here in case of endocrine system is distant from the target organs, which means that, for example, the epinephrine hormone is released from the adrenal medulla and goes and act on various organs of the body. For example, your lungs, heart, which are away and distant from your um, and from the adrenal gland. Similarly, insulin is released from the pancreas and that acts on muscles and adipose tissue, which are present in various parts of the body, in your hand, in your muscles. So wherever fat is present and wherever the muscles are present. So just to summarize, the nervous system and endocrine system, these are two most important systems for coordination and regulation in our body. And the nervous system is different from endocrine system in terms of the speed of action. So it's quicker as compared to endocrine system. The action of nervous system is within seconds in the form of reflex actions, but the action of endocrine system is slow, may take some minutes, hours, or even days or weeks and years. The mode of action in case of nervous system is electrical. So the impulses travel along the nerve fibers, and the electrical signals, they cause the release of some chemicals like neurotransmitters which act on the target organs. But in case of endocrine system, the messenger chemical is hormone. The action of nervous system, it is short lived, just for a second, a few seconds, but the action of endocrine system is for longer period of time. The target organs of nervous system, they're very specific. For example, uh, in case of withdrawal reflex, this is your hand which withdraws from the hot object it touches. But in case of endocrine system, multiple organs, they are affected by the messenger chemical. I have given the example of insulin and epinephrine as well. And the release of messenger chemical in case of nervous system is very close to the target organ it's acting on. And in case of endocrine system, the messenger chemical is released away from the target organ. For example, thyroid hormone is released from here and it goes along the blood and acts on every organ of the body. Now, let's study what are various types of cells which are present in the nervous system. But before that, let me ask you what are various types of cells and tissues present in our body. Can you students tell me four types of tissues in our body? Number one, epithelium, connective tissue, muscle, and then fourth one is the nerve. So which out of these four are excitable tissues? What's your answer? Yes, you're right. The answer is nervous system. So the nervous tissue and the other one is the muscle tissue. These are the excitable tissue. What is meant by excitability? The term excitability means when we give a stimulus to our tissue and that responds in the form of membrane potential or change in the membrane potential or action potential, this is called as excitability. And what is a stimulus? Stimulus is a change in the environment, whether external or internal environment. For example, temperature change in our environment, it may become hot or cold. And internal environment change, example may be a glucose change or fluctuation within our blood. 90% of the cells are glial cells and just 10% of the cells are nerve cells. And these glial cells are just supporting cells, which means they are important to nourish and to protect our neurons, and they are not excitable. Just neurons, which are 10% cells in our nervous system, they are excitable cells. Now, if you talk about these excitable neuronal cells, there are three types of the excitable neuronal cells. Number one is the afferent neurons. Then we have interneurons, and then we have efferent neurons. The afferent neurons, they can also be called as sensory neurons. The interneurons, which are present within our brain and spinal cord and within the central nervous system. And efferent neurons, they are also called as the motor neurons. I will draw a simple diagram just to explain the structure and important properties of these three types of neuronal cells. So first, the afferent neurons. Afferent neurons, they have a long peripheral axon. At the end, it is associated with a receptor. Let's suppose this is the ending of a sensory nerve fiber and it has a receptor here. This receptor is a Pacinian corpuscle which detects vibration from our skin. This peripheral axon, it takes signals towards our center, spinal cord or brain, and its cell body is present outside of the spinal cord in the dorsal root ganglia of the spinal cord. And because this cell, it has one process which divides into two. The one which goes towards the center is called as the central process, and the one which goes towards the periphery is called as a peripheral process. The peripheral process are the peripheral axon is relatively longer, usually it's longer, and the central process is usually shorter. And the cell body is located outside of the spinal cord or brain. In case of spinal cord, we can say that it's outside of the spinal cord in case in present in the dorsal root ganglia. And this type of cell is called as pseudo unipolar neuron because actually it has one process which divides into two, the peripheral one, the peripheral axon, and then it's having a central process. If you see here, the information, it is picked up from the receptors. These receptors, they should not be confused with receptors which are present in our cell membrane. Every cell has membrane, and within the membrane we have protein receptors which detect the chemical messengers like receptors for insulin. But this receptor is different. We call it sensory receptor. It detects sensory stimulus. For example, we have receptors for touch, pain, pressure, temperature located within our skin. And this is a Pacinian corpuscle which detects vibrations from the skin. The purpose of the receptors is convert the stimulus energy into the electrical potential, and this process is called as transduction or sensory transduction. It's a very important term. Transduction means to convert the stimulus energy into the electrical energy or action potential. For example, within our eyes, the light energy is converted into action potential. In our ears, the sound energy is converted into action potential. In our skin, the mechanical energy is converted into action potential. So this action potential will travel along the peripheral axon. So this is peripheral axon of the sensory neuron or the afferent neuron, and here is the central axon of this sensory neuron. What do we call this uh, nerve fiber? We call it afferent nerve fiber or afferent neuron. As I said, its cell body is located outside of the spinal cord. So if this line separates the central nervous system from the peripheral nervous system, we can say that the cell body, which is located in the dorsal root ganglia, the peripheral axon, and some of the part of the central axon, they're located in the peripheral nervous system. But some of the part of the central axon that's present in the spinal cord or in the central nervous system. Why do we call it afferent? The word a, it comes from ad, and that means towards. So this sensory neuron, it takes signal from the periphery towards the center, which is brain or spinal cord. So that means the word a means towards, and ferent means carrying. So it's carrying signals towards from the periphery. So information is going from the periphery towards the spinal cord. What about the cell body? What do you think? Does it has some dendrites. You can see here, no dendrites. So this one is not having dendrites, and also there are no presynaptic inputs on this afferent neuron. Now this is taking signal towards the spinal cord. In our spinal cord, we are having another kind of neuron which is called as the interneuron. Now this interneuron has got many processes. It is having many processes. So this neuron, which is having synapses with the sensory neuron, this is present within spinal cord. This is having different processes. We call it interneuron. Why do we call it inter? The term inter means this is located in between the sensory neuron and the motor neuron. And interneurons, they are too many in our body. What do you think? How much is the proportion of interneurons in our nervous system? I give you some option: 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%. So what do you think? How much interneurons are present in our body? So none of these answers is true. 99% of the total neurons in our body, they are interneurons. 99%. So they are too frequent cells in our body. They are present within the central nervous system, which is brain and spinal cord, and they are important for integration. So they get afferent information which is coming from the environment. They process that information, and then the signals are given from these interneurons to the efferent neurons or motor neurons, which then generate some kind of response. Now here comes the third cell, which is motor neuron. These motor neurons, they have dendrites. So you can see here they have dendrites, and these dendrites, they get their presynaptic inputs from many interneurons. So there may be one type of interneuron or multiple type of interneurons which are synapsing on the efferent neurons. These efferent neurons, they have a long axon. It may be one or two efferent neurons. In case of somatic nervous system, there is one long peripheral axon which is taking signal from the efferent neuron directly to the skeletal muscle that it supplies. But in case of autonomic nervous system, there are two axons, because there is one preganglionic nerve fiber and then there is another one, second preganglionic nerve fiber. So there are two motor nerve fibers in a series in case of autonomic nervous system, and one nerve fiber only in case of somatic nervous system. Why do we call it efferent neuron? It's because the word e, it comes from exit, which means going away, and ferent means carrying. So this is a nerve fiber which is carrying information away from the center towards the periphery. Now this periphery, this has two kinds of effector organs. The effector organs, they may be muscles, and these muscles may be skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, or smooth muscles. Or the other one is glands, the exocrine glands and some endocrine glands as well. The somatic nervous system, it supplies only the skeletal muscle fibers, but the autonomic nervous system, that supplies smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and glands as well. Now we can summarize the properties of these three types of nerve fibers. The afferent neurons, which are also called as sensory neurons, they take information from the environment, from the periphery towards the center. This environment may be external environment or internal environment. For example, vibrations may be picked up from our skin by the Pacinian corpuscles, by some other receptors like Meissner's corpuscles, and the signal travels along the afferent nerve fiber. It's taking signal towards the center. The word A means towards. Ferent means carrying. So this is carrying signal from the periphery towards the center. And there is a long peripheral axon, and the cell body and some part of the central axon, they are all located within the central nervous system. So primarily this sensory neuron is located in the peripheral nervous system, but some of the central axon of this afferent neuron is located within the central nervous system, within the spinal cord or brain. The interneurons, they are 99%. They're most numerous neurons in our body, and they are present within brain and spinal cord. They are important to get information from the periphery, and then to process that information, and then to generate an appropriate response, which that response travels along the efferent nerve fibers. Let's take the example of touching a hot object in a kitchen. So what happens? So the receptors which detect hot signals or warmth signals, they will pick up the signals. The signal will travel along the nerve fibers, and then the interneurons will be involved. And these interneurons, they affect the output signal. For example, when I withdraw my hand, when it's touched to a hot object, what happens? In this hand, my flexors will be reflexing. So the flexors, they will be switched on, and my extensor will be switched off. But in case of other limb, the opposite will happen. That's called as crossed extensor reflex. So the extensors, they will be switched on, and the flexors, they will be switched off. So all these kind of switching on and switching off the muscles, it's done here in case of interneurons, and they will send the appropriate signals, excitatory or inhibitory signals, to the motor neurons, which then supply the muscles. These interneurons, they are also important in our brain for storing data, for memory, for thought process, for emotions, for motivation, and for various other kinds of higher mental functions. These interneurons are very, very important. And if you see here, the efferent neuron is taking information away from the spinal cord. Their cell body is located within the central nervous system, but their peripheral axon, it's a longer one. It's mainly, primarily, it's present in the peripheral nervous system. And there is one efferent neuron in case of somatic nervous system, and there are two efferent neurons in case of autonomic nervous system. One is the preganglionic nerve fiber, and the other one is the postganglionic nerve fiber. The somatic nerve fibers, their efferents, they supply the skeletal muscle, and autonomic nervous system, the efferent nerve fibers, which are two in a series, they supply the cardiac muscle, smooth muscles, and glands. All right. So once we have studied that there are three types of neurons, on the basis of the location, structure, and function of these three types of neurons, we can organize our nervous system into two main parts. One is the central nervous system, and the other one is peripheral nervous system. So the next topic which we are going to study is the organization of the nervous system into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So if you talk about the central nervous system, that means your brain and spinal cord. Why do we call it center? Because the center, it takes information from the periphery along the afferent nerve fibers, then it processes it, stores it, and then when required, generates an appropriate response. The peripheral nervous system is made by all the afferent and efferent nerve fibers. So first, let me tell you that the peripheral nervous system has an afferent division or the sensory division. We will study so many ascending tracts in spinal cord. They all come under the afferent division of the peripheral nervous system. So we can write here that below this line is the peripheral nervous system, and peripheral nervous system is having afferent division, which is the one which takes signal towards the center, towards the brain and spinal cord. Now this afferent division, it gets signal from the viscerals and also from the skin. So the signals may be picked up from our skin, muscles, tendons, so somatic signals, and also the visceral signals. Visceral signal means the signals which are coming from the internal organs like GIT, stomach, uterus. So all these signals, whether they are somatic signals coming from skin, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and the visceral signals which are coming from the internal organs. They travel along the afferent nerve fibers and then they go to the central nervous system, brain, and spinal cord. The other division is the efferent division. This efferent division of the peripheral nervous system, it is of two types. One is the somatic division, and somatic division means those nerve fibers which supply our skeletal muscle fibers. So how many nerve fibers are present in the efferent division of the somatic nervous system? One or two? The answer is one. So in case of somatic nervous system, the efferent division, it takes only one nerve fiber which supplies our skeletal muscle. If you talk about the other one, which is autonomic division, autonomic division, or ANS, autonomic nervous system, it has two efferent nerve fibers in a series. The first one is the preganglionic nerve fiber, and the second one is the postganglionic nerve fiber. Autonomic nervous system, it supplies organs like glands, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscle, and it has got two divisions. One is the sympathetic division. So we can write it like this: sympathetic autonomic nervous system, and the other one is parasympathetic division. So parasympathetic autonomic nervous system. So sympathetic nervous system, it controls the functions um, like the ones which are required in case of emergencies. For example, when you are doing exercise, or when you are running, when you are in anger. In case of emotional states, our sympathetic nervous system is activated, and it will cause the blood pressure to rise, heart rate to increase, pupils to dilate, and there is more metabolism and energy production in our body, and many other activities. And parasympathetic nervous system is important for rest and digest. It's important to digest your food, and this is more active when we are taking rest. Another division of the efferent nervous system is the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is the one which is present in the walls of our GIT, gastrointestinal tract. The interesting feature of this enteric nervous system is that it can work independently, which means that without the uh, signals coming from the central nervous system, so it can work independently. However, this has got extensive nerve supply from the autonomic nervous system. It means autonomic signals from both from sympathetic and parasympathetic, they are given to the enteric nervous system, and its activity is modified in the spinal cord. Sometimes this is considered as the third division of the autonomic nervous system, and some researchers, they say that this enteric nervous system is totally independent and it is not controlled by the central nervous system. So just to summarize here, the organization of the nervous system is into two parts. One is the central nervous system, which is your brain and spinal cord. This is for storing information, to process it, and to generate the appropriate response to the stimulus. Also keep in mind that the central nervous system, like our brain, is also important for the perception of various sensations like visual sensation, auditory sensation, the somatic sensory sensation like touch, pressure. And the peripheral nervous system, it consists of the axons of the sensory nerve fibers and the motor nerve fibers. The sensory nerve fibers, that take signals towards the brain and spinal cord. So this is the afferent division, and the signal may be coming from your somatic areas. And the somatic areas means your skin, fascias, uh, skeletal muscles, from the ligaments and tendons. And the signals may also be coming from the visceral areas, like from your lungs, from the heart, from intestines. And the motor division of the nervous system, or the efferent division, it has somatic nervous system, which means the motor nerve fiber, which is only one, either alpha motor neuron or the gamma motor neuron, that directly supplies your skeletal muscle fibers. And there are two nerve fibers in a series in case of autonomic nervous system. One is the preganglionic, and then the other one is the postganglionic nerve fiber. They supply their effector organs, which are glands, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. Here there are two divisions: the sympathetic one, which is the system of your emergency, the fight and flight response. Okay, the stress response, whenever we are angry or anxious, or whenever we are doing exercise, then sympathetic system is activated. And parasympathetic system, which is important for feeding and breeding. This is important for reproduction. This is important for the digestion of the food. And this is more active when we are cool and calm. And the entire nervous system is present in the walls of the GIT. And enteric nervous system is not controlled by the central nervous system. However, this can work independently, and its activity can be modified by the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers. So this is all about the organization of the central nervous system. All right, so this was our very first lecture on introduction to nervous system. In our next lecture, we'll further talk about how our nervous system is similar to our computer, and also we will see how at various levels different types of reflexes they are generated and regulated. I mean, which reflexes are regulated at spinal cord level, and which ones at brainstem level, and which one at the higher level. So we'll further continue